In today's video, I want to show you an easy and affordable one light setup for your next indoor/studio portrait photography session. How I set up the light, which equipment I use, and how I set up the Canon R5 and the Fujifilm X-S20, and how you can give your portraits that little bit of extra. You will learn all that in today's video. So let's go. But before we get started, and to keep it as realistic as possible, I want to introduce a very special guest for today's video.
Hey guys, my name is Alex. I'm 23 years old and I'm based in Germany, and I do modeling now since 2018.
Hi Alex.
Hey.
So we met each other about 2 years ago. We've been shooting like 3 or 4 times.
Yes, right.
I'm very grateful that Alex is here today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me, and let's get started.
Follow him on Instagram. His link is in the description below. So let's talk about the setup that I actually use for today. Let's start with the light. This is a very simple LED light. It's a GODOX. I will link it in the description below. It's a very nice and affordable LED light which makes enough light for a portrait shooting. I use a massive stand for it here. But this is because the softbox is so huge. You don't have to use a softbox that is that huge. You can also choose a small one, or you can also use a beauty dish. Depends on the style that you want to create. And I also use a grid on it, like this. This beautiful grid. I use it because I want to focus the light very much on the model and on the face, on the subject that I take photos of. And this is the reason why I use this grid. When I wouldn't use the grid, the light would be much more spread out, and this is not what I want for today's shooting. So next, I'll use a chair, of course. This is a very simple chair. Like, there are more fancy chairs out there. There is a small trick that I use. Most of the time I use those high chairs, especially for non-professional models. This has the reason that when I sit on this chair, it's higher and it gives me some posture. And I don't feel like too comfortable, because when I use those low normal chairs, it always reminds me of my daily life and maybe sitting at the table or wherever you want to sit. But these chairs are more like you sit there and it's like a different thing, and you automatically have a different posture and a different feeling of, okay, something is done here. And this is a small trick that I use with the chairs. I love chairs. The next thing would be this reflector. You don't have to use it. Actually, I don't like using reflectors too much. Sometimes they're really necessary, of course. I have this here. It depends on the model and the face. Sometimes the eyes are very deep, and depends on how you set the light, but there can be very much eye shadows, or you won't even see the eyes when the light is too high. So you will use a reflector to bounce back some light, and that the shadows may be not too harsh, or the shadows are a little bit softer, or there won't be not too much shadows. So this depends on your style. You can use it or just don't use it. Last but not least, we have the background, of course. For today, I use a simple paper background. You can use whatever you want as a background. You can also use fabrics, you can paint something, but be sure that you don't use a background that is too distracting, because for a portrait shooting, we want all the attention on the face and the upper body. For today, I will use this paper background, and that's it basically. So the core things are this chair, this light with the stand, of course, and the paper background. Some people also use a tripod. Sometimes I use it, but most of the time I don't, because I like to move a lot. It's not a wedding where I really run from point to point, but it's more of it's an ankle thing. It depends on the face that you take photos of, but most of the time a small ankle change really makes a big difference, especially when you work together with your light, how you set up the light. You want to see how the model looks good, and it doesn't depend on if it's a professional model or a non-professional model. Sometimes a tripod is hindering me in being creative in my work, because I want to move. Like, small movements like this are often enough to create a totally different image and make it somehow special. The equipment I use today is my Canon R5, of course, as my full frame camera with the Samyang 85mm 1.4. As a backup lens, I will use the Sigma 50mm 1.4. As my second camera, I will use the Fujifilm X-S20 mounted with a 23mm 2.0. And as my main lens for this, I will use the Sigma 56mm 1.4. And as a backup, I have this black mist filter. Yeah, that's it for today. Next, let's talk about how I set up my cameras. In this case, here's the Canon R5 and the XS20 is, I cannot show you because I'm filming with it. But basically, we have those three things of ISO, aperture and shutter speed. The aperture, because I love to shoot wide open, my choice is always between 1.4 and 2.8. Some people always say it's safe to shoot a portrait with 4.0. Depends on what you want to do, but in my style, I love to shoot wide open. I love the depth of field, and this gives me some kind of focus, some kind of intimacy when you have this low aperture. So, and after this comes the shutter speed, and because, like I said, I shoot most of the time from hands, I feel safe when using an 85, for example, shooting with 1/200th. There is this rule of thumb. It says that you choose as a shutter speed double of your focal length. So for example, you shoot with a 50mm, so you choose as a shutter speed 1/100th. For me, it always depends on what situation I'm in, and because, like I said, I want to move. I don't want to be irritated while I'm shooting, so I go very safe and I choose for an 85 1/200th. Maybe you have to find out how you feel comfortable. If you want to use a tripod, then of course you can go lower, because in a portrait shooting, the subject is not moving too much or too fast, so you can go safe with that. The ISO, well, we try to keep it as low as possible always. With a flash, you will always shoot around 100 or even lower if your camera can do this. But with an LED like this and indoors, I think we will be around 200 to 800, depends on the situation we are in. So keep your ISO as low as possible. Next, I want to show you how much of a difference it can make when you move the light a little bit. Have in mind that I only move the light a little bit. I just look at his face and I want to know his face, how it shapes in the light and how the light wraps around his face. I want to see how he looks good, how he feels comfortable, and what his face has to offer for me as a photographer, and how I can make the best portraits possible with his face. It's always exciting to see how a face and the structure and the message of a whole picture can change only by moving the light a little bit. I mean, I don't do much, and the atmosphere of the whole picture is changing so much. Personally, I don't like it when the light comes too much from the front, because it gives a more flat look. Personally, I love the Rembrandt light like this. It's when one side of the face is pretty light and the other half of the face is just a little bit touched and we can see the eyes. Here I support with a reflector to light up the shadows under the eyes and on the other side of the face. This is the Rembrandt light again. I like it more like this. It looks more mysterious and more artificial. Also, don't be afraid to experiment and talk to your model. Tell him to turn his head around. Don't be afraid to test, because when you tell the model that it's only because you want to know the face structure and want to see what side looks good or in which light you can make the best pictures of the model will be happy about this. So don't be afraid to tell them and be in contact. Last but not least, I want to give you the tip that you try to always make the chin visible. Have a strong chin line. Alex has a very strong chin and cheekbones, and you can see that in those pictures, and I always try to enhance them by putting the light a little bit above, not too much because then we have too much eyeshadow, but I want to see his chin. So guys, here we have the situation that the light is coming from above and his eyes are starting to get really dark, but I don't want to light them up with the reflector. For all the models here, there is a small trick to enhance your cheekbones here, and I hope we can see this in this camera, but Alex, bite on your teeth. Yeah, this is nice. Can you see this? This and this. Relax again and bite again. So with this trick and biting on your coiled back teeth, bite on them and you will enhance that line here pretty much. So for all the models out there, remember this on your next shooting. So we are trying how many accessories Alex can use, because it shouldn't be too much. He has so nice expression, I want to focus on his expression, and with the clock on it, this was too much. Can you strike that pose again, please? Yeah. Yeah, this is a nice pose for the camera. Yeah, and now the ring is pretty good because it leads the attention from the naked hand to the ring to his face. For this shot, I choose the light to come a little bit from the back because I want to see a little bit more dramatic in the shot. Next I choose a white background, so because Alex is pretty dark today, I told him that he should only bring black tops. So we will see how this works out with the Fuji and the Canon in front of a white background. Let's go. As you can see, the background in the pictures is not as white as maybe you would expect. This is because the light is not so close to the background, so it will be like a light gray, and you can play with this. The closer you get with the light to the background, the more white it will get. But at the moment I don't want the contrast too high, so I choose that it's like a light gray or a little bit gray and white, so it fits perfectly to his outfit and his skin color. So this is also a small trick when you, for males especially, when you want to separate the chin a little bit more from the neck, you tell him, or the model, that he stretches his neck a little bit forward like this. But only you have to be careful with that. You have to tell the model, because you cannot shoot this from every angle, because from the side, of course, when someone is like this looks pretty stupid. Most of the time it's safe to shoot it from the front and not too much, but so you can see the chin a little bit more and separate it like this. Alex, do it with me. Thank you so much for watching. Please tell me in the comments what is important for you when you are shooting portraits. If this video was helpful for you, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel, because this helps a lot. See you in the next video. My name is Markus. Goodbye.